Hey, what's going on? This is T. It's an impromptu live stream, Champagne Sharks. Saw something today that was a little bit disturbing. I'm not convinced it's not a troll. I want to hear what people think and if y'all think this is a troll or not. But Marvel Comics had the weirdest thing. I don't read comics anymore, but I always like to keep track of what's going on in them because I feel like comics right now is the whole Gamergate fiasco in general. Like I feel like the new political culture war is all on this genre movie, video game, comic book front where that's where all the culture war stuff is now. That's where all the left versus right, people hashing it out stuff. It's all happening there. It's all happening with this. Every time there's like a new Hollywood movie that's taking a franchise like Lady Ghostbusters or Star Wars with Ray and Finn, like that's where all the culture war stuff is happening. Like we as a society have been so infantilized. Like that's where we have our culture wars for better or worse. And people talk about social justice warriors, but I think a better term is social justice influencers, especially for people who don't want to repeat language and jargon that far right people use. But I think there's a lot of social justice influencers, and like all other influencers, they're very good at generating buzz, at generating attention, spectacle. Spectacle is the big currency now, but a lot of times when the sales are actually looked at, there's not really a sales bump. Like influencers are very good at creating the illusion of activity, the spectacle. But when the smoke clears, the only thing the influencer has really most of the time succeeded in increasing is not viewership or sales or consumption of anything except name recognition, and they keep failing upwards basically because the same way a lot of these tech companies and Silicon Valley companies or companies that kind of pretend that they're like tech companies like WeWork, or other companies like Theranos with that Elizabeth Holmes lady. If you ever look at how all these things come about, they generate a lot of buzz, a lot of buzz. They're kind of like very good at selling themselves, at getting people with money in the room and getting them to invest in them. And then there's this kind of idea that a lot of people are believing now. It used to only be with tech companies, but everyone is operating this way now. This idea that if I have eyeballs on me, if I have spectacle, the money will come later. I'll figure out the cash. I'll figure it out. Just let me just get an influencer because every single thing is in such precarious decline. Every single industry is in such a precarious state that just the promise of buzz and eyeballs, if you're just bringing your buzz and controversy to the table, we'll monetize it somehow. That's how desperate everyone is, and because everyone else is doing it, it's safe. There's a kind of feeling where, hey, if I try this and it fails, no one's gonna get mad at me. I'm not gonna lose my job because look at all the buzz that I generated. Something must have gone wrong elsewhere because the attention was there. Who knows why it didn't materialize into sales, money, whatever. But the thing that's kind of crazy about this is that a lot of times people will assume things do better than they do because no one really checks and follows up. Like the play on Broadway, Slave Play, made a whole bunch of buzz, bunch of articles. You would have thought it was tearing it up. But then when it was all said and done, it was a flop. A lot of things. Lady Ghostbusters was a flop. A lot of shows like Girls was quietly like flopping left and right. You look at the ratings of shows like Insecure. Issa Rae is a very good influencer, but it's actually not really tearing it up in ratings like you would think, in accordance to the buzz. And but despite it not really setting the world on fire, if you check out her career, it set her on fire. She's a leading lady now. She's doing all types of romance, uh, A-list love interest shit, with Lakeith Stanford and that Pakistani guy from Silicon Valley. You know what I'm saying? Like she's like that influencer life is really all at the end of the day about making sure your brand is getting shot up more than anything. Salam is in the room said as of Insecure doesn't get ratings. It gets more ratings than Girls, that much I know, but the amount of ratings it gets is not particularly amazing, especially given the buzz it gets and the way it's propelled Issa Rae's career. Let me see if I could find. Um, there's ratings dropped in season 3 when Lawrence went away. That happened. I'm reading right now. Um, so in a way, it kind of shows that Issa Rae is not even really the biggest draw on the show, despite what people would think. When Lawrence went away, the ratings dropped. I don't know if they came back when he came back, but even at its best, it's not incredible. It's not. It gets away with it because it's on HBO, and HBO doesn't really have advertisers. It doesn't really need live ratings the way like a network TV show does. If you're a network TV show and you're not bringing in live eyeballs to watch the commercials, you're gonna be on the chopping block quick. But HBO judges success by subscribers, so it's hard to really tell which shows are bringing in the subscribers or not. So there's a lot more leeway about what's a hit and what's not, what's really helping the network. And what they do a lot is they have room to keep things on for critical clout, for highbrow stuff. Like I'll give you an example. Jazz doesn't make a lot of money. So people always wonder why do so many big labels have jazz? But jazz is a prestige thing for the label. Um, People think corporations only care about profit. And to a degree, that's true. But the way corporations work is when the profit is taken care of, they have room to care about other things. Like, I want to have my legacy when I was running this um, record label or this movie studio. I want to not just have my legacy as a CEO being that I had a bunch of sales or profits. I mean, I definitely want that because that's how I keep my job. But I also want awards. I want critical acclaim as the icing on the cake. And that's why a lot of movie studios also have these prestige or Oscar bait movies that don't really make a lot of money. But the thought behind it a lot of the time is this: the things like your M&Ms or your 50 Cent when he was selling a lot of money, or Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, and those some of my dated references. I have no idea what's going on in pop anymore, but the idea behind a lot of that stuff is going to subsidize the artsy critical stuff that doesn't sell so much. So back in the days, the Justin Timberlakes and the Britney Spears and all those things were profitable several times over and basically subsidized the jazz and the artsy stuff that the record labels would like to have for prestige, to have for different things. And then if one of those jazz or world music things actually was profitable and made money, and then that was like a bonus, then even better, you know. But with things like HBO, they have even more room to do stuff like that because they don't really live and die by the nightly ratings, you know. But if it gets ridiculous enough, if the ratings get low enough, they even they have to end up canceling stuff. But they keep a lot of stuff around for like the clout, for the buzz, for the influence. But similar to the record label example, the Game of Thrones type of show is basically subsidizing the living single type shows and the girls type shows. But after a certain amount of time, you can only excuse that so long. You have to usually eventually cancel it. That's what happened with girls. But girls, they canceled it in a low key way. What they did is they pretended that it was coming to a natural end, and they announced that natural end 2 seasons before it was actually going to end. But that wasn't really the natural end. That was just a face saving cancellation that they were doing. Um, because after all that buzz and that critical acclaim, it was kind of embarrassing to admit it was a flop. Plus, if they wanted to use her again, Lena Dunham, for later stuff, they wanted to keep her image unsullied. You know, I mean, God knows why they want to use her again, but for some reason, with the nepotism and everything, everyone's really invested in pretending that she is more necessary to the culture than she is. And I think they eventually did bring her back again, and the second time didn't even make any noise. But um, yeah, people underestimate the degree to which a lot of major corporations and the people running them just have personal vanity projects they want to do. Manu one too. Said the same things. It's so-called vanity project, but a lot of them do. Like we try to think of the market as efficient. We try to think of corporations as the most efficient things on earth, and you would be surprised at how a lot of them have agendas. Like I'm not saying that I'm crazy about things that conservatives say, and I think they lie a lot in the media and try to exaggerate things. But one thing that they believe that I think is kind of true is that a lot of people who run entertainment companies do have agendas that they want to get across. Like they have beliefs, they have politics, and I think the right wings people do too. I mean, but they kind of wear it on the sleeve. But yeah, a lot of these people running these companies, they have their personal pet projects. I mean, the company Coors, the beer, for example, as a right wing example, they put millions and millions of dollars into right wing propaganda and messaging. And you know, people think that with capitalism is apolitical. It's all about the green, but a lot of corporations care about once like their profitability is sewn up, they have room to start caring about what's my legacy, what messaging can I get across. You know, the Koch brothers are like that. On the left, George Soros, you know, is very involved in political messaging. It's both the left and the right do it, and you know, I think Marvel is so profitable right now, at least with the movie wing, um, and they're the dominant force in comics. They seem to have like a lot of room now to really get some interesting agendas across. And I'll be honest, I don't care as long as the stuff is good. But man, a lot of stuff is so bad. And this is what I wanted to show. This is the trailer I saw that made me want to do this video. Hold on. Hmm. Let's see. Is there any sound coming through on this thing? Let me see if I can close some stuff out. I might have too much stuff open. Hold on. Hold on one second, because I think things are too have too many things open. I'm gonna close some stuff out because the video is stalling out. But basically, Marvel has some crazy stuff that they are working on, and they get a lot of grief from it. And I don't really care as long as it ends up being good. But this new thing, I'll give a little history while I'm waiting to fix this video situation. But there was this comic in the '90s called The New Warriors, and when I was a kid, I used to read The New Warriors. It was a pretty good comic, and it was ahead of its time for being diverse. And the first 25 issues of that '90s comic, I think, are like a masterpiece up there with the Chris Claremont, John Byrne X Men, and a lot of other classic runs of comics. It was really, really good. After the first 25 issues, I feel like the guy doing the book, I think it was Fabian Nicieza, I think he had his magnum opus he wanted to tell, and then once he hit that issue 25 and he finished that story, he didn't really know where to go after that, so it kind of meandered after that. But it was a really good comic, and Marvel has tried to bring it back in various incarnations since, but it's never really taken because it's one of those things where they refuse to just do the simple thing that works. They always try to bring it back with some uh dumb gimmick. Like one time in the 2000s they brought it back as a comic about a reality show. It was a superhero reality show, like silly gimmicks like that. But none of that compares to the last way they're bringing it back, and it's a trailer that they dropped today. Hold on, let's see if it works now. Can y'all hear the sound?
My name is Daniel Kibblesmith, and I am the writer of New Warriors #1. I got interested in the New Warriors later. I remember seeing them on the shelf when I was a kid, picking up comics in the '90s, and just feeling like they were too cool for me.
Okay, first off, he admits he didn't even read the book. That's another thing that's very big with social justice influencers is like a lot of times they don't even really they're not really well acquainted with what they're taking over or using to make a name for themselves. Like they just pick what's available. They want to make a statement, and hey, this thing has a built-in audience. It's a great vehicle for me to build my personal brand. So fuck it. I'm on it, but he's not even pretending like he's not even lying and saying he's like a big fan. It's kind of like with The Last Jedi, that guy, you could tell is not really a big Star Wars fan. He ended up admitting it later, that guy, Ryan Johnson, but hey, this is a great way to build my brand and stuff, so it's kind of interesting that he says that he thought they were too cool for him, which is a weird thing to admit, but whatever. But here we are.
For me, like I was intimidated by, Night Thrasher who had a blade coming out of his wrist. Nova was really buff. They were all the edgy characters for the '90s, as the cover said. New Warriors.
So there's something else, right? He says that he didn't they were too cool for him because Night Thrasher had a blade coming out of his arm. Okay, well, so did Wolverine. He's like the most popular guy, whatever. But I mean, he said that Nova was really buff. Do you see where he's going here? Like Nova was really buff. Namorita was like really buff. So can you see what he's kind of trying to say right here? First off, the story might not even be true. He might have, read it all along. Maybe he didn't read it, like you said. He's like, but I don't really believe his reasons, and this is what I think he's trying to say. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to let it play because when I let it play, you're going to understand on your own why he said what he just said. So I changed my mind. I'm just going to let it play.
I thought were really interesting characters because they occupy this really cool space. They're forever young, but they've now been around for 30 years. My editors on the previous books I'd done, like Loki and Black Panther versus Deadpool, asked if I would be interested in doing a New Warriors tie-in that actually poses them as the authority figures in this conflict instead of the rebels. And I really liked the tension of that. So, because the new warriors are the authority figures in this story, they have to be mentoring new warriors who are under 21 and subject to the laws that triggered the outlawed event. This new law is making it illegal to be a vigilante under the age of 21. The artist on New Warriors #1 is Luciano Vecchio. He designed all of the new Warriors and gave them costumes that felt as modern as the New Warriors costumes to sort of feel classic and instantly familiar. So the first character that we're introduced to is Trailblazer. She's a group home and foster kid who is volunteering at a senior center when this mysterious threat shows up and Night Thrasher runs to the rescue. And because she helps him, she ends up in.
Okay. So now you can kind of see why he was saying he was intimidated by the buffness of the characters and the blade, because he's trying to make this kind of Tumblrish social justice version of it that's deliberately uncool. So because supposedly they were too buff and too cool looking and with the blade and everything, now he's remedying a problem that didn't exist by having a fat girl in uh in the group. So like what a lot of people do sometimes is they try to create a problem that doesn't exist, so then they can solve the problem that doesn't exist and create a use for themselves. So now he's like, so that's where the original stuff came from. The whole thing is, oh my god, this thing was way too cool. I was intimidated as a young guy from looking at this. The buffness of the characters made me feel inferior and made me feel bad about myself, and the women weren't body positive. And it's like, fuck out of here. There's no way as a teen guy that was bothering you. I refuse to believe that. Like, because you wouldn't be into superhero comics at all. Everybody's buff. Everyone looks like that. That's how everybody looks. Give me a like. We don't believe you. You need more people. It's not true. Like, but he needs to create this kind of fake narrative to excuse like this new one. So now he's fixing this problem that nobody actually originally had with the book in the 90s, or that anybody would have with it now. Everyone still looks at superheroes as something aspirational. By the way, go to like, comment, subscribe. I always keep forgetting to say that. I'm putting on Twitter, letting people know that we are live streaming. On a side note, as you can tell, I haven't been able to go to my barber. I don't own any hats, so forgive me. I'm a mess. This is quarantine life, and yeah. So anyway, I think this thing is very kind of patronizing, but let's keep moving forward, right? Let's keep going.
In the crosshairs of this new outlawed law, and she inherited from her grandfather a magic backpack of divine origin. We picked the name Trailblazer because she's somebody who charges into action. She knows that she can do some good with this, mysterious gift that she's been given.
Okay, so her name is Trailblazer, which is I think trying to be kind of meta with this, right? So she's a trailblazer because she's the first body positivity kind of hero, right? So it's like even the names of the characters are on a meta level announcing the agenda. But did y'all like listen to what her power is? Her power is a magic backpack. This chick is Dora the Explorer. They basically made a Marvel Comics Dora the Explorer as the first major character. She's a the Tina girl with the magic backpack, and I don't know. I mean, that's too blatant. I think to even be an accident. Like I think he's deliberately hanging a lampshade on. That's what he did, you know. But I'm trying to imagine like how did he sell this to Marvel? Like he said, hey, like there's gonna be new Warriors. The old ones they were too buff. People didn't like that. Uh, somebody had a blade coming out of his glove, and we all know no one likes uh characters with blades coming out their gloves. That doesn't sell Wolverine. Like no one likes that. But I got this idea. This first member, a fat teen Dora the Explorer. Um, that's the first member, and I think people are really gonna like it. And it's not gonna look derivative or weird. It ain't going forward.
Screen time is a internet kid taken to its sort of logical conclusion. As a youth, he was exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas, and that has patched him permanently into the World Wide Web. The word
Okay, you heard that right. This guy's superpower is he's extremely online. He's online all the time, and his name is Screen Time. And he was he was hit with an internet gas. So like Batman's parents were killed in front of him. Spider's been a active spider. The Hulk was hit with a gamma bomb and a whole ton of mega radiation, and he had a unique immunity to the radiation that not only allowed him to survive it but mutate. This dude was hit with internet gas. His granddad's internet gas. I don't know why his granddad had internet gas lying around or what he was using internet gas for. Like, why was his granddad inventing internet gas? I don't know. But this dude was hit with internet gas. His name is Screen Time, and his power is he's online 24/7. So basically, I mean, I know a lot of people who are online 24/7, and I would not fucking trust them with anything, much less saving saving the world. I mean, I think maybe he's gonna do some super trolling. Maybe he's gonna shit post his way out of trouble. Uh, he's probably gonna be able to have a super meming power where he can just meme at the drop of a hat and really really fuck shit up like Dr. Doom's gonna have him in a dungeon, but at the very last second, he's gonna have a devastating fucking meme. He's gonna upload in real time. It's gonna just get Dr. Doom so fucking canceled. He's gonna have to set them free and abandon his plans of world domination. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's a genius and I'm the one with the lack of imagination, and he's gonna pull some shit out with this stuff. But I mean, I want to ask y'all: do you think this is real? Like, I'm thinking maybe this is a troll. Like, I think maybe we're being trolled. Like, we're being tricked into making fun of this, and they know it's shit. And like the first issue, they're all gonna get killed, and then the original New Warriors are gonna come back. And this is just like a big kind of troll of the audience because in this new era of influencing and buzz and stunts, a lot of times people do fucked up shit on purpose to trick people to making fun of it, like an easy dunk, and we think we're the ones dunking on it and making fun of it, but like a lot of this stuff that comes out where a corporation does a major racial gaffe or a Kardashian does something fucked up with cultural appropriation and everyone gets mad at them. A lot of times they know they're doing fucked up stuff and they're trying to weaponize cancel culture or reactionary alt-right culture into dunking on the things to get the buzz. And a lot of times it's not even true. But this dude seems a little too earnest. I have no idea what to make out of this, but let's keep going. Let's keep going.
word screen time is only ever used in a sort of restrictive sense. And because we're doing a story about teenage rebels, a lot of the names are about teens fighting against labels that are put on them. So with screen time, we liked the idea that he has infinite screen time. Snowflake and Safespace are the twins, and their names are very similar to screen time. It's this idea that these are terms that get thrown around on the internet that they don't see as derogatory, to take those words and kind of wear them as badges of honor.
So yeah, there's two. They seem to be black, non-binary characters, brother and sister, named Snowflake and Safe Space. That's supposedly their real names. They're called Snowflake and Safe Space. They're non-binary. They're of color, and something that's kind of insulting to me about this, right, is I feel like a lot of times people like to take. They don't want to tackle real black things, but they want to take black narratives and use it to pump their thing, right? So the whole thing with nigga versus nigger, right? The A versus the hard R. The whole thing was about, yo, we're taking something that we don't like or that's been used against us, and we're gonna reclaim it. We're gonna take the ER, change it to an A, and we're gonna turn it into our personal badge. We're gonna reclaim and take something derogatory and repurpose it as something positive. And he's trivializing that with things like screen time, safe space, snowflake, where they're he's not taking on real black issues and stuff like that, but he's using a black narrative to um sell something that's like way more trivial, like, so now social justice influencers are repurposing their derogatory names used against them and turning them into a badge of honor. And then the implicit kind of thing behind that to me is this idea that yeah, we as social justice influencers, like me, this white out of date guy who's trying to pander to younger audiences to be cool, um by being like fake woke, or me, this young girl who's of privilege with half my head shaved and purple hair, I get laughed at online for saying ridiculously earnest things. We're as we're the same as the stuff that black people have gone through in this country. Like we have negative labels and stigmas against us that we have to repurpose and stuff. And it's like, no, it's like it's not the same. But uh, whatever. Snowflake and Safe Space.
Safe Space is kind of a big, burly, sort of stereotypical jock. He can create force fields, but he
Okay, in what universe is this a stereotypical jock? I don't know, but he says this is a stereotypical jock. He's wearing a pink uh form fitting outfit that accentuates his butt. That's a stereotypical jock to this
but
guy.
he can only trigger them if he's protecting somebody else. Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they them. Snowflake has the power to generate. He can create
Hold on,
force
I want to
fields,
back up
but
here.
he can only trigger them if he's protecting somebody else.
So this character, Safe Space, his power is he can create force fields, but he can only create them to when he's protecting someone else. So basically, there has to be a third person there, and then his powers activate. And I guess the idea is, okay, that is he's like a care lord. I guess trying to say like, oh, it's cool to care about other people. So his whole power is to care about other people, and he can only activate his power to protect the third person. But that makes him useless in a one-on-one fight. His power is only defensive, and his um his power is only defensive, and he can only use it on top of that to defend someone else. And I guess trying to make like the kind of meta narrative about how hey, you call it social justice warrior, but guess what? Caring and protecting for less privileged people is actually cool, and we're gonna make it into a superpower. And it's like, okay, that's nice, but that's not the most interesting reading. Like, you know what I mean? That's not something that I think is really gonna translate well to something exciting. And this is kind of what I hate, right? They always give the minority characters like the most fucked up powers a lot of the times. Like like something like Cyborg. Like Cyborg basically has 80% metal body parts, no penis, and his power is that he is connected to the internet all the time and is a giant fax machine and calculator, and he gets exploded like every other issue and blown apart. Like it's this weird masochistic type of thing to him where he's always getting shredded. Like when I saw the Justice League movie, I said, I bet you at some point, because DC loves doing this, Cyborg is gonna get ripped apart. And sure enough, in like the very last scene, the bad guy like, picks Cyborg over his head and just rips him. Like this kind of weird joy they get out of blowing him up and ripping him up and stuff. And he never has a love interest, never does anything, you know. Marvel traditionally has been like better with stuff like this because they had people like the Falcon and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with the Falcon. Falcon used to get it in. He used to hook up. He used to have girlfriends. War Machine is pretty cool, but in general, comics they always, um, but especially with these new force representation stuff, they've been making worse and worse characters for black people. So and for Latino people. So basically, the Latina girl works in a group home and is Dora the Explorer, and she's overweight and is um she wears a magic backpack, like the most lame power. Like I don't really think a lot of teen and adult Latino guys or girls are really gonna want to be that. Um this guy's power is just creating force fields to defend other people. Who's really gonna wanna have a power fantasy about that? I don't know. But anyway, here we go.
Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they them. Snowflake has the power to generate individual crystallized snowflake-shaped shurikens. The connotations of the word snowflake in our culture right now are something fragile. And this is a character who is turning it into something sharp. Snowflake is the person who has the more offensive power, and Safespace is the person who has the more defensive power. The idea was that they would mirror each other and complement each other. B negative is the goth kid. When he was a baby, he got a rogue life saving blood transfusion, we assume from Michael Morbius. And now he has a very similar look and very similar vampire powers. B negative also is obviously a pun. It's a blood type, which is great for a vampire character. And it's also a proud ownership of the idea of having a bad attitude. I want the people who read our New Warriors to feel all of the excitement that they felt if they read the 90s one.
Okay, I'm gonna go on a limb and say they are not going to feel the same excitement that they felt with the 90s one. That's just my guess. I don't know. I mean, it looks like the old ones are still in the book, so maybe they're going to keep it cool. I have no idea, but I mean, they put a goth there. Like the dude looks like dresses out a hot topic. I have no idea what that's even about. But yeah. Gavin said, "Why they balance like video games characters? This is the tank. This is the DPS." I mean, I have no idea. I mean, this is my thing. Well, maybe the old people are still going to be in there, and that's going to keep it cool. Because I can't see a book of just these people carrying the book. But my thing is, I also think this is going to sell. Like not just comics, but everything. Everything is stunt based now. Everything is just create a stunt. And I don't even just mean comics. I mean this culture, the culture in general. TV shows, movies, um, companies, every biotech with Theranos. Everything is hype, stunt. Create a stunt, create hype, create buzz, milk the buzz, get your PR people to get their connects in the media, their other blue checks or whatever to promote the shit out of thing. And then when it flops, everyone just move on to bigger and better things and just keep doing it until something hits. So I mean, leave your comments below. Let me know. Tell me what you think. Do you think this is for real? Do you think this is a real deal, serious thing that they're like this is gonna be dope and it's gonna be a hit, or do you think this is something that is bad on purpose and they're just going for the buzz, or do you think it's both? Do you think it's gonna create buzz and they believe it's gonna be good? And and also, like, do you think it's actually gonna be a hit? Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is gonna be a hit, but these things are never a hit. And then everything I predicted would be a flop has always been a flop. I predicted Slave Play was gonna be a flop, and it was, like, despite the buzz. Like, you can never go by the buzz. There's a million videos about this comic on YouTube that's up right now. And to the point that I was kind of hesitant to make my own because I'm like, I think I'm giving them what they want by even talking about this. But at the same time, in the past, that's never stopped these things from flopping anyway. Like, they create all this buzz for all these different things, and then they do flop. So I think that whole talk about don't give it attention because you're gonna give them what they want and it's going to become a hit. I don't think it really makes a difference. But I mean, I think all the talk about this, positive or negative, is not going to make this sell. But Angus Merriweather says, I think it's real. I mean, it's sold so earnestly. I think you might be right, Angus Merriweather, but I just don't want to believe it. I just don't want to believe that this is something that is real, that Marvel has lost the plot this much. My other theory is maybe comics don't matter anymore. Like, the movies make so much money that I think maybe the comics now are just basically a glorified IP farm that is just an afterthought. Like, I think the movies now wave the comics tail rather than the comics waving the movies tail. So I don't think anybody really cares what really happens there. They just throw everything against the wall, see what sticks, and if something happens to work, hey, mind it for a TV show or a movie plot point. But if not, so be it. Cancel it, relaunch in a couple of months. Because all they do now, they just cancel, renumber, and relaunch. I don't read comic books anymore, but I like to keep track of different industries because I feel like I said before the video, I think that's where all the cultural war stuff is happening. It's interesting to watch, to see what's going on. It's an interesting space to watch. Yeah, so I mean that's all just want to talk about. Yeah, but some people in the comments, I guess, are current readers, so they're talking about stuff that Marvel does this a lot nowadays. I mean, I believe you. I just don't believe any of this stuff. I don't think any of these people. Let me say a couple things. I don't think any of these people actually have any um connection with the comics. Like, I don't think these people actually read the comics previously that they're taking over. Like, this guy said he didn't read New Warriors. I also wonder if they actually read superhero comics in their life at all. I think a lot of these people are just shameless self promoters and shillers and stuff, and their real skill is politicking and getting in rooms and connecting. They're like extremely online influencers who connect with each other, promote each other, and get in rooms. And I think to them, comics and superheroes, because they're popular, are just a way to get their name out there and a platform to get to other stuff. So I think a lot of these people, they just want to get into TV, get into movies. Like Roxanne Gay got a Black Panther book. She got it from knowing Ta-Nehisi Coates, and then she was really really pissed when she wasn't invited to the Black Panther movie premiere, and you could tell like she really wanted to be there. A lot of these people are kind of like fans and careerists and strivers, and what a lot of them do, I notice, is they really want to get into the rooms where things happen, and they just want to make a name for themselves. They don't care if they have to deconstruct and destroy and revamp the properties that they're taking over because they don't really give a fuck about the properties. So that's something they have a nostalgic connection to. And then the hope is to just troll reactionary white guys and old comic fans and to push like their agendas and kind of validate their own lifestyles, or maybe don't even care about the lifestyles. They don't actually live these lifestyles. They just want to pander to the people who do and build a name for themselves. But I think the common problem is that just like these people don't really care about the properties they're taking over, the type of person they're pandering to doesn't really buy the comic books. They just like to do tumblers about them or tweet about them or do think pieces about them, but um these people don't spend money, they don't buy anything, the people they're pandering to. That's why these things keep flopping. They just like to be online and talk about the stuff and and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I think this is just indicative of like where a lot of the culture is going to go in general, not just with comics, but with everything, TV and movies and all this stuff. These publicity stunts and hype fest are just going to be diminishing returns, but people will just keep doing them because that's the only thing people can think of to do in this time of precarious industries. The idea of just making something good and letting something good speak for itself is kind of foreign to them, even though most of the big successes that have actually happened the past couple of years have been just that. Like something like Jordan Peele's Get Out was just somebody who had a story to tell and just told a good fucking story. And it surprised everybody and blindsided everybody. And most of the actual genuine grassroots hits that you see are that. It's not someone taking an established property that they don't even have a connection to and trying to piggyback off the goodwill that already exists for that property and then troll the shit out of people who already like that property, drive it into the ground and then keep moving on from the hype that they did with it. I guess not even like it doesn't even work, but for some reason everyone just keeps doing it over and over again, even when the evidence shows like for example Ryan Johnson, Last Jedi, he basically kind of kneecapped that franchise going forward. People point out that it made money, but it made money because of the pre-existing goodwill. But if you notice, everything after that movie made by Star Wars has made less money, and that's how much bad will it engendered. But look what happened when Ryan Johnson told a story that was personal to him, like with Knives Out. That got pretty universal praise for the most part. Like it didn't like, and I don't really think it's because of the Last Jedi that Knives Out did good. I just think when he told a story that he actually cared about, rather than the one that he just wanted to show that he can cleverly deconstruct, I think the results were better. And but the people in charge of these big companies are clueless, so they're just going to keep doing these type of stunts. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, enjoy y'all's quarantines. Don't lick any poles. Don't go out unnecessarily. And remember to comment, like, subscribe, and everybody be good.